boxing, beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Sorry to jump on you like a vulture a bit, but I need to know what you and AJ spoke about on the phone last night.
Haven't spoken. We're not going to second guess whether Fury's actually ever going to fight again. What do you think about the news, AJ? That's not his style. Gets on with his own business. We can't be influenced by other people's decisions. So if Fury's for real, good luck to him. If he's not, they'll fight.
Tyson Fury's biggest accomplishment is he's managed to sell it to people that he's an all-time great heavyweight. But I believe 3 title defenses tells you all you need to know. He lost his last 2 and he's retiring. And you know what he's going to do for the rest of his life? Oh, the Dick Turpin, I was robbed. Rather than get back in the ring and add to his resume and actually try and become an all-time great, rather than all this talk your way into the all-time great discussion. But if Fury decides to come back later on in the year, I would imagine that's the only fight that would make sense for him to fight. We can revisit it. Look at Wilder now fighting Curtis Harper. A record of 18 wins, 11 losses. That's his next opponent on BLK Prime. Harper is best known 2018 when he walked out of the ring before a punch was thrown against Efe Ajagba, protesting against how much he was getting paid. Deontay Wilder now has a record of 43 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, 42 inside the distance. I'm not mad at his choice of opponent because he's not much better than this level. He really isn't. But you know, the media and the fans, they love the smack talk. They love the loud talkers. The loud talkers compensate for their lack of accomplishments by talking shit. Till this day!
There ain't a man born from his mother's can beat the Gypsy King. Never mind a sausage like that there.
It doesn't mean you're an all-time great though. It's just bluster. And when Wilder blows away Curtis Harper, his fan base and the media who are friendly to Wilder are going to say, oh, he's back now, he's ready to fight for the world title and all this crap. That's what they're going to do. This is who they are.
Bill, Tyson Fury retires again. Should we believe him?
It's one of those, look, if you look at what Tyson Fury's done now, not only for himself, but for the British fight fans and the sport of boxing, and AJ, if he wants to retire, me knowing Tyson, if he gets bored, it won't take a lot for him to come out of retirement. I know he asked for 500 million.
Billy Joe Saunders is saying that he's heard, and it must be from a relatively reliable source, he's friends with Tyson Fury, that he asked for 500 million to fight Anthony Joshua. 500 million. A lot of people are trying to decode what he meant by Dick Turpin had a mask on. Was he talking about the 2 Usyk fights, the 2 verdicts he didn't get? No. He's talking about himself. He wants to commit the biggest heist in boxing. That's what he wants. Forget boxing. In sport, no one ever would have earned 500 million for one single contest, match, game, or whatever in sport. 500 million. And they've obviously knocked him back and he's retired. Why is he asking for so much? Well, he does feel aggrieved about the 2 verdicts that went against him, against Usyk. And now he's saying, basically, if you want me back in that squared circle, after what you did to me, 500 million, or do one.
If a man wants to make him pay down funny.
Where would the money come from? How much pay-per-view would you have to sell to generate the money to cover a purse like that? And look, the Saudis obviously are paying over the top to make all these fights, but they're not going to pay that much. You know what I mean? Like, you could add the Wembley gate, 100,000. If it does 2 million pay-per-view buys, you're not covering 500 million. I mean, Anthony Joshua's got to get paid too.
Hey, my friend Greedy Belly, continue training.
Boxing, beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
There we go, Spence. It's now official. Loads of people were talking about it. April the 26th. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Conor Benn, or Chris Eubank, Conor Benn, Chris Eubank. The 3rd time the Eubank and the Benn family go at it. We also get a rivalry between Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn in this. They're not best friends either, are they?
They're not best friends, but I think that Eddie's just a cool cat, and Eddie knows how to play the game, and he knows what he's doing. I've seen interviews recently with Eddie Hearn saying, listen, we may not be best friends, we may not be going out for a pint together, but I'm happy to do business together.
Yeah.
Because it works. Eddie's a smart guy, you know. You got to look at Eddie and just go like, he's taken boxing really to another level, and you got to respect that.
It's a big prize fight. There's no world titles on the line here.
This is an old-fashioned prize fight. What people don't understand about boxing, a Eubank versus Benn fight is more connected to the origins of modern-day boxing than any of them will fathom. In the 1900s, Lord Lonsdale and the National Sporting Club, the originators of the championship belt, not a personal belt, a championship belt, the Lonsdale belt, they put all the weight classes together. When I say they put them all together, they didn't invent all of them. Some were invented over here, some were invented in America, etc. 8 weight classes, and from flyweight to heavyweight at the Covent Garden National Sporting Club, they had their own set of champions. But what you need to know is before that, catchweight fights were as common as anything. They didn't have emails and a phone communication as reliable as we have now, where they could make fights from one side of the world with the other. They couldn't do that. So often champions had a lot of non-title fights. 2 fighters are traveling from 2 different parts of the country. They're not going to know each other's weight often. So catchweights were very common before the weight classes were all consolidated by the National Sporting Club in London. You know, in Britain, where the boxing booths at fairgrounds were very much a part of boxing. The likes of Jimmy Wilder went on to be flyweight champion. Well, you think he was fighting all people who was 8 stone, whatever? No! He was fighting big men, a lot bigger than him. And that's just how it went. If you were good enough, you beat them up. If not,
you played yourself.
And the whole boxing thing is a concept just to clean up the sport for the upper classes who wanted to see it. So it wasn't criminalized. Before that, prize fighting was the thing. Hence, London prize ring rules, drafted by Jack Broughton, protege of James Figg. Once the transition from London prize ring rules was made to Queensberry rules, we saw the addition of weight classes consistently now. We're seeing that consistently. No more eye gouging and kicking and over excessive wrestling, 3 minutes around, 4 rope ring, etc., etc. But y'all don't know the history. I could go deep into that. No one should be ashamed of prize fighting, and that includes Jake Paul, Conor Benn, Eubank, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. None of them should be ashamed of prize fighting. You know, I see a lot of the American channels, they covering Brian Norman Sr., father and trainer of the 147-pounder world champion Brian Norman Jr. He's taking on Greg Hackett. Greg's someone who gives his takes on boxing regular. And they're having a fight. And like, you know, they're senior citizens now. And it's interesting for people in their communities. That's an interesting fight for them. And that's going to be on the BLK Prime card. Greg was no more than a journeyman as a pro. No more than a journeyman with a losing record. But he's quite charismatic, quite engaging, quite knowledgeable as well on the sport. I don't know if Brian Norman boxed professionally. I'm not sure. I know Greg Hackett did. But they're big personalities. They're smack-talking each other every second. And it relates to a certain demographic across the pond. So you can't tell me it's not relevant. It is relevant. It has an audience. Not the same audience that Joshua and Fury would have, but it has an audience. It's entertainment. 2 consenting adults who want to fight. I've never paid for a Jake Paul pay-per-view, so how does it affect me, really? Like, if I wasn't into the Conor Benn Eubank fight, just don't pay for it. There comes a point where a lot of you disapproving, we don't like Fury, AJ, we don't like Benn, Eubank, we don't like Jake Paul. In a lot of people's eyes, you're becoming more corny than the aspects of boxing you are saying is corny. You're becoming really corny. People watch what they want to watch. It's entertainment. Floyd Mayweather 49-0 TBE. Yeah, that should be challenged, but his blueprint is his blueprint. Anyone who chooses to follow it and comes up short because they didn't take on the best opposition, when in all truth Floyd fought some very, very good fighters to build up his resume, that's their problem. There'll never be another Mayweather. But TBE, because he had 50 fights unbeaten, not sure about that.
Hell no!
Tyson Fury is another one, like all this lineal champion. He never was lineal champion. And he does tell a lot of lies, pulling out of fights with David Price, Pulev, Ustinov, Anthony Joshua, didn't give Vlad his rematch. yes, they should all be challenged on a lot of stuff they say. They should all be challenged. Like when Jake Paul is talking about he's going to fight Canelo. Yeah, you're damn right. If you're all that, you could beat Mike Tyson in his prime. Well, you can beat Daniel Dubois in his prime as well. Yeah, they should be challenged. But no one should be so insecure the boxing they like can't coexist in the same space as the influencers, etc. So it looks like we're going to White Hart Lane. The ends, you know what I mean? Back to the end. One of the sticking points in the talks, with Benn being a welterweight and Eubank operating 2 divisions higher at middleweight, Eubank had been determined to have this rescheduled at 160. It was at 157 last time, I believe. Eubank was publicly criticising Benn and his promoter Eddie Hearn for trying to enforce a rehydration restriction on me to make the fight. Conor responded, £10 rehydration because I'm already fighting a middleweight, but you want to get in the ring as a light heavyweight, making excuses already for when I staple you to the floor. The negotiations to make the fight have been protracted, with Benn telling Sky Sports, in my opinion, it's one of the biggest British domestic fights in history. He said, I don't think 2 father and 2 sons have ever fought like this. It's about history, it's about legacy. See, I want to watch that. I want to see the fight. I also want to see Beterbiev and Bivol. I can have both. The undercard, big up October Red. I like her suggestion. They should get Michaela Mayo and Sandy Ryan on the undercard. They had a really great fight, which hasn't been mentioned as one of the highlights of last year. Listen, you see, some people don't want women's boxing anywhere near men's boxing. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these liberals. Yeah, just put any 2 women. No, it's got to be the elite. If it's not elite, I don't want them on there. Let them fight somewhere else.
Conor can't save the fighter. And no 3 knockdown rule. That's all I requested. Just give me an 18-foot ring. You keep your 55%. It's never about that. I never cared about that.
So it looked like Chris got his way with the bigger piece of the split, the 55%. But with the money that Conor's getting anyway, just let it go. But it looks like Conor might have got his way with the rehydration clause. Hey, listen, man. A lot of people are saying they're not interested in this. Okay, all right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see if it lives up to the expectations that the promoters think it will. Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn. Will it do upwards to 1 million pay-per-view buys? Will it sell out Wembley or White Hart Lane? I'm a bit of a loner boxing channel because I don't go with the takes that everyone goes with. We're not interested in this, the middleweight against a welterweight. That's totally irrelevant. You know why it's irrelevant? Because people don't like Conor Benn. They don't like him. Some people don't like Chris Eubank, right? Whether you're going to illegally stream it or whatever you're going to do, this fight is going to trend bigger than most events of the day, barring something crazy happens in the world. And once you have one polarizing figure, the villain, against the hero, or 2 polarizing figures, all eyes on this event.
I look at Conor Benn never really explaining how those drug tests were failed and no answer having to be given in a sport that should be so challenged by these things. And then we've got Chris Eubank Jr., who's the definition of mediocrity in terms of all style and very little substance. When does he fight for world titles? This isn't a world title. This is trading off their father's lineage.
This is a massive fight.
This is trading off their father's lineage.
This is a massive fight.
It is a massive fight because it's been made into one by notoriety.
He acknowledged it's a massive fight. So regardless of how it's got there as a massive fight, it is a massive fight. And he said it's a massive fight because of notoriety, of which he, Simon Jordan, helped propagate. He wouldn't leave the Conor Benn case alone, would he? Let's keep it real. He was the main person at Talk Sport who had Conor Benn content. So he can argue that they're living off their father's name. He lived off Conor Benn's name for content because radio is all about content. All the radio people care about is how many people tune in to hear whatever's being spoke about. So it is what it is, yeah? Yeah, they're opportunistic living off their fathers. Simon Jordan was opportunistic living off that PED case. You know what I mean? Like, recently we've had a super bantamweight who's tested positive for some serious steroids, right? Dennis McCann took some serious steroids, 2 of them. Simon Jordan hasn't made 1 video about it. Not 1. Because he's not going to get the same amount of hits as talking about Conor Benn's PED case. If it is a massive fight because of notoriety, Simon, it's because people like you have made it so as well. And I wonder what Ben Shalom has to say, because he has a close relationship with Ben Shalom. Apparently, he helps raise funds for Ben Shalom. And now he's crapping all over this fight here. I'm sure Ben won't be too impressed, talking about Chris Eubank's mediocrity.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
According to Forbes, Crawford, who was there and seemingly negotiating a mega fight with Canelo Alvarez, poked Davis in a post on X. Davis responded with a series of strong accusations and harsh words, including some out-of-bounds insults about Crawford's wife in a now-deleted post.
Now, once again, Tank makes a post and has to delete it. You know what I mean? If you're watching the video rather than listening, you can read it. I'm not going to read it out, though. He disrespected Crawford's wife. But I believe Terence said, when you see me, you can basically say it to my face. Yeah, Terence poked him first, but it wasn't no serious poke. He just said, I see someone's unhappy that they didn't get invited to the Ring Magazine Awards. And then Tank, you know, he said what he said. Terence is married. And whenever you see him in pictures with his wife, they're both smiling, they're both happy. Now, what is Tank's situation with the women he's having kids with? Terence Crawford looks like he's got a stable home life. He's with his kids. They have his protection. He's under the same roof as them. There isn't no assault charge calls to 911. He doesn't have that. He seems to have stability. Who's really winning? But let's not lose track. This is a boxing video after all. Big up Lineal Boxing Champions. Lineal Championships. Terence Crawford, 3. Alexander Usyk, 2. Saul Canelo Alvarez, 2. Nayo Inoue, 2. Teofimo Lopez, 2. Bam Rodriguez, 1. Artur Beterbiev, 1. Devin Haney, 1. Tank Davis, 0. The Ring Magazine can exclusively reveal that Turki Al Sheikh is currently in advanced negotiations to finalize deals for upcoming fights with Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, Terence Crawford, Nayo Inoue, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, Jai Opetaia, Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, William Cepeda, Martin Bacoli, Anthony Yard, and Mazim. And here's what anyone needs to know, yeah? The fights that Turkey is negotiating for them, if it's in Turkey's power, will not be restricted by networks or promoters or egos or anything. And Tank Davis needs to take heed.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Tell you what, man, that was a good card and Riyadh season that Golden Boy had, where Zerdo Ramirez unified his WBA strap and took Chris Billion-Smith's WBO belt in the process. Good card. But on that same bill, Oscar Duarte against Akhmadov got a gift of a decision. But on February the 15th, he'll be taking on Regis Prograis. It's a good matchup. At the Honda Center in California, another Golden Boy card. I like the fight. Regis now is basically battling to hold on to his world-class status as a 140-pounder that he's held for years. 2-time champion, I believe. Unified champion. Just lost to Jack Catterall. Not too long before that, lost to Devin Haney. He's basically fighting for his career at the top level. Will Duarte be able to use Regis Prograis as a stepping stone to get onto that next level? It's an interesting one. Would have preferred if he ran it back with Akhmadov, though.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.